Hello and welcome to Knockoff Media's Tire for Tire podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Raph.
Today we're going to be talking about the season opener race at Bahrain for Formula One. Rafi, can you give us a race recap?
Yeah, so first I'm going to start with the top 10 finishers. In first place, we have Lewis Hamilton. Not far behind in second was Max Verstappen. In third, we had Valtteri Bottas. Fourth, fifth, and sixth, we had Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc. And rounding out the top 10, we had Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz Jr., Yuki Tsunoda in ninth, and Lance Stroll finishing it all up.
It was a very exciting race. Can you give us some of the highlights of the race?
So before the race even started, we had a Mazepin spin in qualifying one, I believe, that presented a double yellow. And Vettel did not slow down during the double yellow. So instead of placing 18th, he had a 5-grid penalty all the way down to 20th. Not that big of a jump, but still pretty significant.
Definitely not a good weekend for him
Yeah.
and for the Aston Martin team. Which leads us into our next topic is we're going to rate the teams on how we believe they did this past weekend. So we're going to start off like last year's championship order. So that will be Mercedes. I personally think they did the best the entire weekend. They were on top of it, even though they're a bit slower than Red Bull. I think they had everything handled. Rafi, what do you think?
I ranked them 8th. Like, we expected them to win, even though our race predictions last week did not say so. I kind of had an inkling they would win. I ranked them 8th because I expected it. How they did it was pretty good. You know, they were able to read the strategies from Red Bull beforehand and be proactive instead.
That leads us on to the next team, Red Bull Racing. I think they did a solid job, and really this weekend was their race to lose. I gave them a 9 just because of that little last bit at the end of the race.
Yeah, it definitely was their race to lose. I also ranked them 9th because of that. I think instead of allowing Hamilton to pass by immediately, and Max said this perfectly, let him take the 5-second penalty so he could build that 5-second gap and still win.
Actually, did you hear that the stewards actually came out and said that he received a 10-second penalty? So that would have been a little bit hard. Not saying it's not possible. Verstappen was looking very strong, and Hamilton's tires were looking pretty old.
But yeah, it would have been very hard to do that.
Let's move on to Lewis Hamilton's old team, McLaren. For McLaren, I gave them an 8. I think they had a solid race. I know Ricciardo had some damage on the floor. That's why he finished a little further back. But I think they did a very good job for this opening race.
Oh, I agree. I ranked them 7th. Like I said, I expected them to finish kind of upper 5. You know, Daniel Ricciardo didn't have the best of races. He didn't have the worst of races. He did finish up there. He got 7th, which was nice.
Hey, in the points?
He is in the points. I feel like like we said last week, it's just going to take time for him to get used to the car.
I agree. So let's move on to the team that I think we were all kind of disappointed with was Aston Martin. I gave them a 4. I think neither of them really turned up. I know Stroll was in the points, but it wasn't really what we were expecting.
Yeah, I got to agree. I was expecting a lot more. There was a lot of hype around them. One of the ones we thought were going to outperform a lot of people. I think Stroll just had bad luck in the race, in qualifying, in practice, and testing. I think his luck needs to turn around soon, so that way Aston start finishing higher and higher. But I ranked them 5th overall. You know, I was disappointed, but I wasn't too disappointed with them.
I agree. You know, they could have done better. I think Vettel got caught out a bit, but I think he's just not as comfortable as he was hoping. The new regs for this season has definitely caught Aston Martin out like it has Mercedes, but they don't have the resources behind them to get what Mercedes is getting out of their car. But let's move on to another team, a team that I almost completely forgot about, Alpine. I give them a 2.
Same.
I don't think they ever really showed up. Yes, Alonso was doing very good, probably would have gotten points. But did he really get a sandwich bag in his brakes, or was there another problem and that was just kind of cover up? And where was Ocon in that race? I don't really remember seeing him that much, besides when Vettel hit him.
Yeah, again, kind of like how it's been throughout the week. We kind of forgot about Alpine. I do agree with you. I hope I hope it was a plastic bag that got stuck in and they weren't just trying to cover something up, because I know Renault in the past, because Alpine is just the racing sport of Renault, has had reliability issues. So I hope it's not a reliability issue again.
Well, hopefully they'll get it under control for the next races coming up. But let's talk about a team that did impress. That would be Ferrari, which a few years ago we'd be saying, Ferrari impressed? Yeah, obviously they're a top running team. But, last year they did struggle. But for this race, I'm giving them a 7. They impressed me. They had some speed. I was not expecting that. I was kind of expecting, again, like last year. It was good to see Leclerc and Sainz fighting for points.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I was super impressed. I actually ranked them 10 out of everything. I think they just blew me out of the water. I was expecting maybe one to finish eighth, maybe an eighth and 10th, or 10th and 11th finish. But to finish sixth and eighth, getting some very well needed points in the beginning of the season, showing that, yeah, they might have been slow last season, but they're fighting back as strong as they can. The prancing horses are out, ready to fight. It just kind of lit that fire under me. Like, I may be side cheering for Ferrari in some races now, seeing how fast they are.
Now, the question is, do you think they'll be able to fight for podiums potentially by the end of the season or even a race win?
I don't think a race win. I think a third place at best. Like I said, they still have a lot of work to do. But
It all depends on how much they're focusing on the next season, new regs for 2022, or how much they really want to show how much they're growing for this season. So I potentially could see them getting on the podium a few times on merit.
yeah, I think a lot of things have to fall in place. Like, a lot of dominoes have to fall. Kind of like how last year with Gasly's win in Monza, there was a lot of things that had to happen for him to win. I think that's what's going to have to happen for a Ferrari to get onto a podium.
Okay, let's move on to another Italian team of Alpha Tauri. I think they had a very good weekend. I gave them a 6 though. I was kind of
I
hoping for a little bit more. Sonoda and Gasly really impressed me. Both very mature drives, I think. Definitely a great weekend for them.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I gave AlphaTauri a six, just like you. I think what really put them at a 6 for me was Gasly's recovery. Even though he didn't finish high, he was able to recover well, and he wasn't complaining too much. And Yuki Tsunoda, he's an acrobat in that car. I was so shocked at how he raced and how well he did, because I usually expect some rookies, as we're about to talk about with Haas, you know, not finishing points or something happens and they're out of the race. But Yuki proved his merit.
Oh
He
yeah, definitely
fought.
showed. Definitely showed he belongs in F1.
Yeah, especially with that pass over Vettel. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was just the youngest driver, one of the oldest drivers. It was just nice to see.
Okay, let's move on to the next Italian team of Alfa Romeo. I gave them a 5. I think they had a good race. They weren't in the points, but I definitely see them fighting for points this season. They definitely have a strong race.
I agree. They have a strong race. They could be fighting for points. I personally kind of forgot about Alpha a bit, besides, them going back to like when Kimi was on the radio. I don't really think they showed Giovinazzi besides when he pitted. I gave him a 3 overall just because they didn't do anything outstanding, nor did they not do anything outstanding. It was just a standard race for them. So moving on to the next one, we're going to be talking about the team with 2 rookie drivers. I know a lot of us are thinking 2 rookie drivers. That's going to be a test and a half to see. And I think this first race was a big fail for them. Not only did Mazepin crash on turn 3 of lap 1, there was a big spin for Schumacher, who he was able to catch himself and recover, but not really finishing high. We both of us kind of called it. They were probably going to finish 19th and 20th, or maybe even 17th and 18th, depending on how Williams were.
I think
Um,
Haas will, they might be able to get some points if Mazepin doesn't spin and crash out in the first couple of corners. And I just worry for Schumacher that he might be hurting his career at Haas, even though it's the first race, he hasn't had time to prove himself to the F1 paddock, that the car's not going to be able to perform anywhere near the recognition he needs to survive in F1, though his name will carry him far. I actually gave the team a 1. I think they did the worst this race.
Yeah, I agree. I did give them a 1. And I do agree with you. Schumacher needs to prove himself. I don't think Haas is the car to prove it in. But honestly, he did do well in this race. Comparatively to his teammate who couldn't control his car throughout the entire qualifying and like practice, and then crashed in the race.
Yeah.
I think he was able to prove to himself. Like, yeah, it was windy up in Bahrain, but there was two other rookie drivers, one in the exact same car that was able to catch himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough, the amount of pressure coming into Formula One. I don't want to knock on him too. Give him a chance. I know what he did. A lot of people can't forgive him, or at least not yet. But I'm going to try to clear my mind of that and just give him a chance as a rookie and see what he can do. Um, yeah, that was definitely rookie mistakes, definitely Formula 2 area mistakes. So hopefully he can get it together. I understand there's been a lot of pressure, a lot of backlash on him. I just wanted to state that maybe he'll be able to turn it around.
Maybe.
Anyway, let's move on to the next team. Former world champions, Williams. I gave them a 3. I think, they were there. I think, Russell get 14th in the end? It was definitely a solid.
Russell got 14.
He got,
Same position he
Q2.
qualified.
We're going to ignore Latifi's score because he pretty much finished last.
Technically, he did finish last. He got 18th.
Yeah, last of the running
crashed.
cars.
Yeah. I give him a 4 because of Russell's performance. I was super shocked in qualifying that Russell just had one of the best laps that Williams had in a while and shot through into Q2. Then, the top teams start to rev their engines a bit and show why they're some of the top teams and some of the top midfield teams. And he got 14th.
The sandbags come out definitely right before Q3.
Yeah.
The later stages of Q2. That's when we really started to see what these cars can do. And it was a sight to see. For a second there, I think we all thought that, Mercedes was seriously sandbagging at the end of Q2 because they took the first position.
Yeah. Verstappen really, really shocked us. Talking about Verstappen, let's move on to the driver scores. Alan, what were your top 5 drivers of the weekend?
Before we discuss my top drivers of the weekend, let me break down what we're going to do. So, for the entire season, we're going to pick our top 5 drivers, giving them points. 5 points for who we thought was the best, all the way down to 1 point. We can share drivers. They don't have to be the exact same score, or they can be. And we will add them up at the end of the season, and they will be our driver of the year. So, I'm going to start off. My top driver of the weekend, coming with 5 points, is Verstappen. Rafi, what did you put as your top driver of the weekend?
I put Sergio Perez as my top because to be able to finish where he was in 5th place after having to start in the pit lane, having to make an extra pit stop, to get in the top 5 was just a phenomenal drive by him.
See, I think he did an amazing drive during the race. I think his qualifying was a bit disappointing. That's why he's actually not in my top 5 drivers this week. I definitely believe he could do a lot with Red Bull. He definitely showed he had some real pace there in the car. But because of his qualifying, he did not reach my top 5. Verstappen, however, got pole and could have won that race besides that penalty, which we'll talk later. I'm going to move on to the driver that's in 4th place for me, which is Lewis Hamilton. That was an amazing drive by him. It shows why he's 7-time world champion, potentially 8th, depending on how the season goes. People might say I'm a Hamilton fanboy. I'm all right. He's good. He's not my favorite driver. I'm not always rooting for him. In fact, I would like to see someone else win a race because I'm kind of tired of seeing him win. Rafi, what'd you put for your 4th?
My second driver who's going to be getting 4 points was Verstappen. And it's all because it was his race to lose and he lost it. And it's nothing against him. There were some things that happened during the race that could have swung either way. But I don't know, I got some big heartbreak when he lost that race.
Moving on to our drivers that are in 3rd. For me, this week is Sonoda. I think he really impressed as a rookie. Got points on his first ever race in Formula 1. Considering what I've been hearing is that he's only been driving in the Formula Series for 4 years, 4 or 5 years. So he's brand new to the sport. And to be able to come into a car and get points, I'm impressed. Really looking forward to see what he could do this season. Rafi, what's your thoughts?
I gotta agree with you. I put Sonoda as my third top driver. Yeah, he hasn't been racing very long in the sport. I believe it was 4 years. I think he raced in Japanese Formula 4 and then moved his way up. And it's just the handling of his car. The F1 commentator said it the best. He's an acrobat of the F1 racetrack right now. He's able to slip and slide where he needs to be, position his car where he needs it. And it's always a show to watch him drive. Even when I watched him in F2, it was always like a nice show to watch.
A funny moment of the weekend with him is that he looks young, he's short, and everyone kind of thinks of him as nice, young, naive. It was funny of them jumping to a radio of Sonoda's and him just dropping the F-bomb and hearing the commentators go, "Whoa!" I was not expecting that from him.
Actually, that was my favorite part of the weekend because I did not expect him of all people. Just because he's a rookie, and usually rookies want to try to like keep to like not say anything too harsh on the radio, but to
Definitely
him to
took
drop
people
the
off guard.
F-bomb, I think it shows how serious he is, though.
Oh no, it's good to see a driver that's really wanting to get the most out of it. He's there to win, as we're saying right. He wants to, probably will win. But let's move on to our second driver. For me, that would be Norris. I think he had a solid weekend. That McLaren was looking really good. Stayed out of trouble. Got some really good points. McLaren's top 3 in the championship right now, even though it's the first race. And I'm excited to see the Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris battle throughout the season. Like I said in previous podcasts, I don't think there will be a bromance with Ricciardo and him. I think that's not going to happen this year. Rafi, what are your thoughts for your second driver?
My driver who's going to be getting 2 points today is going to be Hamilton. A lot of people are going to be questioning me, not liking it, but we expected Hamilton to. I'm not a hater. We expected him to win or get top 2. He got it. I didn't expect anything less than to show some like random thing like making your tires last a lot longer, making a few short pit stops, which we'll get into later. But that's why he's getting 2 points. I expected him to win, and he won. So nothing really out of the view, out of left field with Hamilton right now.
Yeah, I think Hamilton's a good driver, but this definitely wasn't a perfect weekend. But let's move to our drivers with getting the remaining point. That would be Leclerc for me. He gets 1 point. I think he did a solid job in that Ferrari. Looked like he was going to get beat out by Sainz there in qualifying. Pretty sure he didn't, but it looked like it for a moment there that Sainz definitely showed up at Ferrari, definitely saying, "I'm not going to be a number 2 driver. I'm in this to win this as well." So I think that was a solid drive by Leclerc.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I couldn't pick one.
Nope, gotta
driver
pick one.
Between Leclerc. I have to pick one between Leclerc and Sainz.
Yep, you gotta pick one.
Ooh. I'm going to pick Sainz because he did out-qualify him in Q2 by a thousandth of a second. But if I have to give it to Sainz, but if I could give it to both of them, I'd give it to both of them because the Prancing Horses, like I said, showed up this weekend ready to fight. They may have not scored all the points. They may not score in the best of points, but they came out and fought because we thought Tyre was going to walk all over them. We thought McLaren was definitely going to walk all over them, but both of them are up there in the top 10.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they did it. They had a solid weekend.
Yeah.
So here's going to be a little fun part. I have yet to tell Rafi this, but we're also going to do the top 5 or worst 5 drivers of the weekend and rate them. And these points will be subtracted from their driver championship.
So are we already going to admit that Mazepin's the worst? Are we
I think it's pretty obvious. Yeah. So minus 5 points this weekend is Mazepin for myself.
Oh, might as well chalk that up for me as well.
Should we discuss that, or should we just let that one? Everyone pretty much has their own opinion of that whole situation.
I think it was just overall the whole weekend for him didn't line up for him. We expected maybe something more out of him. And like I said, we're not going to bring in any of the business outside of the track. Like, yeah, he's done things in the past, but on the track this weekend, my honest opinion is he should have stayed in F2 to refine some of that.
Yeah, I definitely believe that some of his mistakes could have been, he needs a little more time. And I also think he cracked under pressure a bit. So I'm hopeful to see him improve a bit. you know, I don't want to knock on anyone. It's a hard, and if he can get it together, I think he can have a good career in Formula One. But I'm going to
Yeah.
move to my minus 4 points of the weekend, and I think this one's going to shock you a bit, Rafi, because you know how much I like him, a person. It's going to be Latifi. Yeah, you're probably laughing, loving that one.
uh,
I always
I
say
don't think I have
Latifi's
the.
going to win the 2023 championship. He's going to come, prove Rafi wrong and all the haters.
You said he's gonna beat Russell. Nah, there's no chance that he beats Russell unless Russell crashes out.
Hey, a man can dream, can't he?
Yeah.
So let's move to our third. Wait, did you say that you also agreed that Latifi was in fourth
Yeah.
there?
I thought me laughing kind of said that. Yeah, I agree. Latifi. It's just he didn't have a bad weekend. It's just he didn't do anything stellar for me. And yeah,
He's.
there's a lot of drivers that didn't do stellar, but he finished 18th, which is his usual finishing position. He
I was about to say he
qualified
did
bottom five.
his normal race weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
for all those fans that watched last year, or even the ones that didn't, during the last second to last race of the season, Jack Aitken actually jumped into George Russell's car when he was at Mercedes and almost beat Latifi in qualifying in his first race in qualifying in a Formula. And that Williams is not a good car, so
And it
I
also
think that
wasn't made for Aiken. Like that seat was Russell's seat. It,
yeah,
like the car wasn't made for Aiken, and he still almost out qualified Latifi. Now I don't know if
yeah.
that says more about Aiken or more about Latifi.
I think it says a bit about both, but let's move on to our -3 driver of the weekend. And Rafi, what is your choice?
I have to really think about this because now we're getting to the point to where like I'm trying to think of drivers that disappointed me or just I guess again just didn't show up. I think I got to go with Ocon. He didn't disappoint me, but barring the accident with Vettel, he really didn't do anything. And now
Yeah,
I don't know if that was just because Alpine's car is just not up there yet, or if maybe we're all just focusing on Alonso so much. But even then, we didn't really hear a lot from Alonso, barring the brake issue and that three-way fight between what was it? It was him, Vettel, and I believe Sainz with that three-way fight for a bit.
yeah. So you're going with Ocon. This one's going to
Yeah.
shock a lot of people if they don't know yet. I don't know if I stated. I'm going to put my -3 as Vettel. I think that was a very, very disappointing weekend for the four-time world champion.
I
Hopefully, he can get his act together. I know he didn't get all the practice he needed or wanted during the off-season testing, and he still just does not look comfortable in that car. And I hope that he could turn it around pretty soon, or he's going to be asking a lot of questions. Aston Martin will be asking a lot of questions why they hired him.
yeah. No, I gotta agree with your statement. I put
So,
Vettel as my -2 actually because it was just not. It was just not a good weekend for him. I think it's just things fell out from him. Then more, it was him not missing opportunities, but opportunities taken for him from the situations. You know, the testing and the testing didn't go so well for him because the car just wasn't balanced very well. He qualified Q3, like he didn't qualify outside of Q3. That double yellow kind of messed him up. But even then, I don't think he was on a fast enough pace to get out of Q2. So he would have just been back in probably like 15th or so.
mhm. So for my number two, I'm going to go with Alcon. As you stated before, he just kind of wasn't there this weekend. Forgot about him. You could be right. Could be Alonso outshined him, but that car didn't look like it was getting the points this weekend. Not at least not in my memory. So he's getting -2 points. And so for my -1 point of the weekend will be Giovinazzi. Kind of another driver that just I don't really remember seeing at all. Granted, neither was Raikkonen, but I think Raikkonen finished above him, and that's the only reason why I'm choosing Giovinazzi as my -1. Because if we have another race in the future and Raikkonen follows behind him, he's the one that's going to get the minus points. Rafi, what do you think?
My -1, I actually had to think. I had to think about this for a bit because I really don't know because every other driver tried their best, and I don't want to be hating on Haas,
You gotta
but I
pick
think
one.
I'm putting Schumacher at my -1, and it's just the way he recovered very well. But again, I think maybe it's just a name, but I expected a bit more out of him. But
I don't think
I
there's
think
much
it's
you can get
really
out of that car.
I think it's really the car. So I hate to do it to Mick, but I was just not impressed by Haas in general. That's why I'm giving him the -1. Out of
Okay.
every other driver I saw, I guess he deserves it more than others. I feel bad doing this, but I think I have to do it.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. So for those
Yeah.
following, we will be putting our results on our social medias, Instagram, and Twitter and Facebook, and whatever we're on, and we'll make a little chart so you can follow throughout the season. So next, let's move to our bold statement of the week. Rafi, what is your bold statement
Mine's a
for next
huge
week?
bold.
All right.
Oh, my bold
You know
statement
what? You just make your bold
for
statement. Yeah.
my bold statement of a week comes with this race. Uh, a lot of people have kind of been joking about it. We heard the joke in Drive to Survive. Uh, I think Mercedes, maybe indirectly, maybe unconsciously, sort of sabotaged Bottas this race. He was on the same pit strategy and same pit frequency. Hamilton had tires that lasted 15 laps. They told Bottas that he's going to be on an extended, and I did not know 16 laps instead of 15 laps was a major extension. And then they brought him in, and I think they did that so he could finish behind Hamilton, and because they don't believe that Bottas can bring the fight to Verstappen, or maybe they would just
Yeah,
want Hamilton to have that 8th championship.
I definitely think that Mercedes does favor Hamilton, and that they're willing to sacrifice Bottas for that win. However, you got to remember that when he went to the pits, they messed up again, and that really took him out of the running. So I think maybe his was a long term strategy that maybe fight towards the end because Hamilton pitted early, and I think he was planning on staying out a bit longer, trying to get on fresher tires when Hamilton's on old tires. It could probably brought the fight to both of them. But let's move
Probably.
on to my bold statement of the week. You ready for this
Uh,
one?
I've been waiting. You don't even have it written out. I want to see what you're talking about.
My bold statement of the week is Hamilton should have gotten a penalty for the 29 times going off the track.
Oh, I should have saw this one coming. Yeah. I kind of want to play devil's advocate, but I got to agree with you honestly. If it was actually 29 times, which there is a video on I believe the F1 subreddit showing all 29 times, that yeah,
Oh yeah.
he should have gotten a penalty or two. But
Let
does
me
that
elaborate
say
real quick though.
yeah,
That I think
please.
Verstappen definitely was deserved to hand the position back. He did overtake off the racing or off the track, which is not allowed, even though at first I was a bit upset about it. But I definitely believe that Hamilton did get a lasting advantage throughout the race, especially with his 29 laps. And Verstappen didn't initially even use that part of the track. I know later on his engineer, hey, Hamilton's using that, might as well. He's gaining the time. Let's gain the time as well. So I think we need a little more consistency from the stewards of F1 because throughout the weekend it was yes, you could do it, no, you can't do it, yes, you could do it, no, you can't do it. It was very confusing. I don't even think the drivers knew if they couldn't
Yeah.
or could.
Yeah, I believe on Sunday, because they were fluffing it, but on Sunday, like right before the race started, when they were having the racer debriefing, I forgot who said it, but they're like, yeah, we're going to, on turn 4, there are going to be track limits. And I think there might have been a miscommunication because if they were observing track limits, what is that, a 2-3 second time penalty after your 3 warnings per track limit?
I think the smallest you can get is a 5 second, if I believe
So,
correctly.
so so let's say they did give him the 3 warnings, Hamilton 3 warnings. That still leaves 26 other times.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah, I definitely believe that next race, they shouldn't be allowed. Come on, just stay on the track. That's what it's made for. We don't.
Or at least
I know you get more time going off the track, but come on, use the track that was made for. Don't make your own track, because what's the point?
or at least because they did tell Bono, the stewards did tell Bono in the beginning, and Bono told Hamilton to stop going over the track limits, and that was like lap 10, I want to say.
Actually,
then,
I heard recently that the stewards have come out and said they did not tell Bono that. They did not tell Mercedes that. There was, in fact, a call within the team to give that information in that way for Hamilton. Could be for something, watch the curbs, you don't want to damage the car. But definitely something I would like to see develop through this week, see what actually happened.
Because if that's the case, because how I heard it is Bono was saying stay off that curve for track limits. If that's the case that stewards didn't tell, that means they weren't monitoring turn 4 track limits, and they just said it to drivers and just didn't obey it. I think this is a real rabbit hole you and I are jumping down.
I definitely believe we should move on so we don't run out of time. So our next thing is the moment of the weekend. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry, I'm jumping one. Our next one is our predictions for next race, right? Yeah, I'm gonna say it is.
In 3 weeks. Yeah, let's try to make our predictions for based on this race alone. Let's try to go for 3 weeks down the line.
You know what I'm gonna say? I think I already have mine written out there. It says Verstappen will lose to Hamilton in the same exact fashion of an overtake outside the track.
Oh, that specific. Oh no, I think it's going to be the reverse. I think Verstappen is going to, not in the same fashion, but he has some vengeance in him. He's not going to like crash Stappen it, but I think he's going to beat Hamilton, and it's going to be by a substantial margin. I think it's going to be the qualifying pace where he beat Hamilton by 0.4. I'm calling it here, Verstappen to win the next race by 0.4 in front of Lewis.
I hope so, because that would be very exciting, which actually leads into our next segment of Moment of the Weekend, both positive and negative. Mine was racing for the lead. Who didn't enjoy that? We've all been waiting for that for a long time. I think it was really 2018 is the last time we truly saw it with Vettel when he was able to challenge for the championship for the beginning half of the season. And then let's talk about your positive moment of the weekend, Rafi.
I gotta agree with you, because this is the first time we're kind of disappointed in the result, but it shows that this season, against my bold statement of last week, this season is going to be a good season for the top 2 teams, for Red Bull and Mercedes. Even in the post-race interview with Toto and Christian, Christian was disappointed, but he was very happy about how the race went. Of course, Toto was excited that they won, and I think that's the first time that we've seen Toto almost jump out of his seat from a win with Hamilton. Besides when Hamilton first won his first drivers' championship.
I think it's a weekend they really enjoyed that they haven't been able to enjoy in quite a while. They're actually racing. They could lose, and I think that excites them. It's something they haven't had to do in quite a while. Pretty much throughout the turbo era, they really haven't had a real challenge. They got close in 18 and 17 to a real challenge with Ferrari, but it never came through. This season could be interesting. Hopefully it stays that way. Let's move on to our negative moments of the weekend. Mine would be Vettel's struggle. It hurt to see, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Here I'm going to read something I read that I believe it was David Coulthard. Yeah, it was David Coulthard. That he warns that Sebastian Vettel could be axed mid-season if Lance Stroll outperforms him. That would be absolutely devastating and a terrible, terrible thing to do to his legacy in Formula One. Because a lot of people will forget that he's a 4-time world champion, and to be axed mid-season for bad performance would just be heartbreaking.
I don't think Aston Martin would do that because of that, but it is a fear. He did not perform very well, and that could be a Vettel problem. That could be a car problem. The way he raced, I don't know.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that they didn't get a lot of time to, practice and figure out the car during preseason testing. He definitely has a whole bunch of things that they got from the race that he's looking forward to finding out how to make the car better. I believe we could see a turnaround in Vettel once he starts to figure out this car. Yeah, it's losing. Unfortunately, last year it was his dream car. He didn't get to drive, and he likes a quick or a very stable front end. Or no, is it? Yeah, a very quick turn in and like a very tight rear end that doesn't lose grip in the back. Unfortunately, the Aston Martin does not have that this year. It's back
It's actually
to
the opposite, I think.
Okay. Anyway, he likes a very stable car. This car does not look entirely stable, but he's not spinning yet. So that's always a good thing. Rafi, what was your negative point of the weekend?
My negative point of the weekend. Nothing can top Vettel. I'm trying to think of something that's besides Vettel because that was just so disappointing.
You can't just have mine.
I know.
Could be Mazepin.
No, I expected that from Mazepin. Honestly, no. The whole Alpine situation. I wanted Alpine to Alonso and Alpine. I wanted to hit. He was doing so well, and then out of nowhere, there's a random plastic bag, and I'm having air quotes around plastic bag that comes into the brake duct, gets sucked in, and makes them overheat. I don't know. That kind of was disappointing to me. Because Alonso was looking like he was going to fight for points. I think if Alonso stayed in it, Aston would not have gotten a single point this race.
I completely agree. I think Alonso is getting the most out of that car. I don't think it's a great car. Definitely a step down from where they were a few years ago. Kind of a good thing Ricardo was left, huh? Maybe he made the right call. He saw what the team. I think that's going to happen though because they don't have Cyril as their team manager anymore, and that's going to cause the team to have some doubts and lose its bit of momentum. But hopefully they can get it back for this season and next.
Yeah. I definitely think they are floundering because the fans. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but I don't know who the team boss is. I don't know who the team principal is yet.
It's funny. I think it has been announced. There's someone that's leading it. I could not tell you who it was, though.
Isn't it I thought it was. I know I heard rumors that it was the Renault GP. It was the old Renault GP team principal.
I don't know. We'll have to figure that out because it's not looking good for him so far.
Yeah.
But I think it's time to move on to our next session. Will either be rumor or F1 drama roundup. So we could either talk about things that could be potentially happening or things that did happen and that's causing a lot of drama. Rafi, you got one for us?
I actually don't have a rumor or drama right now.
You don't have a rumor or drama, really?
No, I was just so shocked about the race about the race and that I really didn't do any more research besides how badly did Hamilton abuse that track limit, and we've already talked about that. I guess I could talk about how Mazepin technically screwed over, was it 4 or 5 drivers in Q2 with that spin that caused a double yellow that slowed down everybody's lap. And I feel like F1, or the FIA at least, should, with the people that were on a hot lap, not finishing a hot lap, that had a double yellow, they should be able to get one more go around. Because that really ruins it. Because, maybe Vettel could have gone out of Q3, but because Mazepin spun, and then Sainz actually had an engine failure. But since Mazepin spun turn 1...
It's a part of the game, though. It's a part of the game.
Oh, but I feel like it is a part of the game.
It could add drama. Trust me, if that had happened to Hamilton or Verstappen this weekend, we would have been going nuts because that meant we were going to get a good race, which we did anyways, but we could have gotten a very different race. So, I kind of keep it as it is. It's working. I feel bad for Vettel. He's one of my favorite drivers, which makes me going to feel a little bit worse when I tell you my drama of this week. You ready for this one? I haven't told you him, or haven't told him this.
You haven't told me anything. I'm actually very scared.
Oh, this one hurt me a bit. This will maybe lose a little respect for you.
Is it Vettel retiring at the end of the season?
This was quoted from Bonato, the team team principal of Ferrari.
No.
It says, he said, "It was nice to finally be able to count on both drivers to score points."
Bernardo, no, you don't say that.
That
No.
one just hurt me in my soul because I
Oh
like Vettel.
no.
He's a really nice guy from every interview I've ever seen
Oh,
from him. He, I get it.
Bernardo.
He's
This is why
struggling.
people want you
He's having a bad
fired.
time right now, but ugh,
This is
come
why
on,
people
man.
want Bernardo fired. He doesn't have class.
Yeah, I don't
Because he
think
was
that.
able to count on Vettel every year he was there besides last year.
That's only because Bonado took over in 19, and that's the start of Vettel's
Downfall.
fall.
So Bernardo is the reason why Vettel sucks as
I
of now.
mean, you could look
I'm
back and
calling it.
say in 18 is really when Vettel started to fall after his
And,
crash in Germany, but 19 it was definitely shown, and then 20
yeah.
was definitely. Of course,
Like,
yeah.
but I also I hate to play the devil's advocate, but I will say it was kind of nice seeing two Ferraris in the top 10. I will say it was nice. It was nice seeing them. I'm not saying Vettel could not have done it, and last year's car was horrible. But
I'm just hoping Vettel comes back and proves what he's still got it. He could still win races and potentially championships.
yeah,
But yeah,
I want Altmar to call Binotto out for not giving Vettel the chance last year with the bad car.
it's like kick a man while he's down. It's come on.
Well,
Anyway,
we
let's
all yeah.
let's move on to last week predictions. 1 point if we're right. We'll also have a champion, Rafi or myself. So Rafi, what was your prediction last week?
Oh man, my prediction was Red Bull with a 1-2 and whoever third. I technically got one right. I got
We're
Verstappen
not
as a
doing half
second.
points. If you want a
So,
point, you got to be a little less bold, but
no,
then you're
a
no
little
fun.
less bold. I feel like I was pretty bold with that, but yeah, no, I didn't get any of my. I technically didn't get my whole prediction right.
So no points. For
What
me,
about
I said
you?
Hamilton first, McLaren 2-3. So neither of us got
Oh,
points this weekend, which
nah,
means next week, or the next race actually, we'll probably do 3 predictions or something. That way we have a better chance of getting points.
nah. I like the whole. Maybe we could do it, or maybe 2 predictions. But right now, we're looking like a real Haas. No points.
Thank you everyone for
Yeah.
listening. This is been Tire for Tire by Knockoff Media. We hope to see you again after the next race. Potentially we'll have an IndyCar preseason roundup and I think a NASCAR on Bristol dirt track. Rafi, any last remarks, comments, rumors, anything?
No, but just remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe.